What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer podcast. I'm your host, Alex Martin, and today we are here with another daily grooming expert, this side on the teaching side of things. I am here with Arielle Scavnicky. She is the founder of Cleveland Grooming Academy, an Ohio State Board of Career Colleges and Schools accredited school. They started in 2016. They teach a 10-week, 300-hour program called Complete Basic Grooming that starts all the way from the ground up to full-service grooms. And I'm here today to dive in with Arielle on what it takes to become a professional groomer from the ground up. So Arielle, welcome. And I must ask, when reading your background, I saw a little note in there that you had recently become the 7th person in our industry to double CMG through both the NDGAA and AKC.
Correct. Yeah, because it just came out. So I was one of the top 10 people that got it right away.
That's amazing. And, when I first read that, I don't think I really understood the importance of it until I started diving in. So can you break that down, why that's a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long process. So, they're two separate organizations, the NDGAA, and then you have AKC. AKC focuses on coat types, where the NDGAA is more of like the profile of all the dogs that you're practicing on. Each of them take practicals that you have to do. So, either you do it on the competition, while you're competing, you do it on stage, or you can do it privately through different seminars, or if like either one goes to a salon or like in a little room. The AKC does like separate rooms. Like at Pet Quest last year, they kind of let people go and groom their dogs, and then you brought them up and they graded them. So it's a long process, and you have to prove that certain breed profiles, and you're able to groom them according to profile. The master exam for NDGA is long. It is I want to say it was like 200 questions. I took it a couple years ago, but it's a lot of information that you have to know in order to pass both exams. So
that's wild. That's wild. Well, congrats on all that, because I'm sure that is not talked about enough. And like I said, it even took me a minute after reading it and looking into it to really come to full grips on like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been grooming for a while then. I mean, break down, give me kind of where you came from here.
Sure. So I started grooming in 2010. So I've been grooming for about 14 years now. I started corporate. I was actually going to OSU for veterinary sciences. I really wanted to be a vet. But I wanted a job that I could like get in and just kind of work with animals. I applied to a couple vet clinics. It didn't work out, even just as like letting the boarders out and stuff. Got hired at PetSmart, worked there for 3 or 4 years, ended up quitting. I kind of bounced around different salons, different private salons. I did work at a vet clinic at one point. But then I kind of just settled in at one salon for about 6 years. And, we kept getting people in that said they had gone to a school, and then I would interview them, or, if I was the manager or the other manager, we'd interview them, or, have them do a live demo. And they didn't even know like what a clip comb was. They didn't even know how to do scissor a head. They totally didn't know what they were doing. And my kind of thought process was like, well, they're obviously not learning what they need to learn. Like, if I'm going to train someone on the job to be a groomer, I would rather teach them from the ground up and make that my focus. And that's kind of where the school came from.
I mean, I love it. And I know we were talking a little bit before this on, the education difference between, growing up through corporate or learning on your own. I feel like even nowadays, like there's a huge digital push behind everything. To where the pros and cons that come with that. Obviously, the pros of having it be democratized and lower costs at a lot of levels, but the cons being you're not really hands-on with someone. But all this being said, the more education, the better. And so I love that you saw this as an opportunity for, hey, I could really craft some really, really quality groomers if I start a school and work from the ground up. So I'm curious, your guys' school, you say it focuses on complete basic grooming, and it's 10 weeks, 300 hours. That's a long time. And I can see that it makes, I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? I feel like I would leave knowing the complete basic grooming, characteristics that goes into everything. But I want to walk through, some of the different areas that you guys actually dive into and why they're important. And so
Okay.
if you could just give me a high level and what I would hope to learn in your school, and then let's walk into why each element is important to teach at a school versus being self-taught.
Okay. So I mean, we'll just start from the bottom then. So if we were to bathing is one of the most important things. If you don't get all the dead coat out, if you don't get all the grease or dirt out, you go to do a haircut and it's going to look terrible no matter how much you try to brush it out or do whatever, any tricks you have. Without a clean, well prepped dog, it's never going to look the way you want it to. So we focus on bathing and then we go into drying. So every dog that comes here is hand dried versus kennel dried. Now, if a dog is completely stressed out or it can't handle the dryer, we will give it a break. I do have a kennel dryer, when it comes to boxers and things like that, that's if they can't handle it and they kennel dry, that's fine. But if I have a haircut dog, we're hand drying them. Because without a straight finish, you're not going to get a good trim. Again, everything's going to be uneven or on the curly, any kind of doodles have taken over. So any kind of doodle or curly coated dog, if it's not blown straight, your haircut's never going to be where you want it to be. And then we go into, I would say a really big important thing that we have is the students have to apply the haircuts and like they talk to the clients, they figure out what they want, and then they have to apply that haircut like a normal groomer would. So obviously I'm there helping them, but if someone comes in and says, I want half off, they have to be able to go through and say, okay, what blade is going to take half off? What clip comb is going to take half off? How can I apply that? And then they have to actually do that. We do a lot of clip combs, so they get a lot of scissoring. It's not, I don't have a clipper vac here, so everything is way more scissoring, way more hands-on, to make sure you get the correct finish. And then definitely heads. That's the one thing we really focus on because that's going to hold all the expression of the dog. So that's always the thing that students are the most nervous about is, finally, getting that head the way they want it to. We definitely focus on that.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I can see that. I'm curious, as you guys, as you're teaching these new groomers, do you give a big focus on breed standards, or is it more, hey, I'm going to teach generics, let's call it, and then we're going to work up from there?
I would say we do generics and then we work up. Now I compete with an English Cocker and an Airedale. I do a lot of hand stripping. So they do get to practice like that. They do get to practice the correct technique of hand stripping. I have a few clients, but I would say like a lot of people, a lot of my clientele is mixed breeds and just the everyday pet,
Yeah.
So when we get a Schnauzer or a Terrier or anything in that I can put it into profile, we will. But they're going to get their experience here is going to be mostly what they see every day working wherever they go, which is going to be some kind of doodle, unfortunately.
No, I mean, but that's a fair way to teach it, right? It's like we can dress everything up, and it'd be great if you could, take your 7 students and teach them how to do show cuts for, whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, if they're going to spin out and go work in a suburban salon, they're not going to need to know that, or they'll eventually learn that, right? It's not, it's not an area of focus.
Yeah.
What's the level of like expertise your typical student starts with? Do they know nothing, or have they spun out of corporate and they just want to learn more?
Most of the time it's nothing. And I will say the best, I love all my students, but the best students I've had are the ones that know absolutely nothing because I'm not having to go and erase what they thought was correct and then reteach them the way I want it done. So I would rather start someone brand new, fresh. I get a lot. It's either like 18-year-olds or 45, 50-year-olds who have been doing one career. They always want to do dog grooming. They didn't know it was a thing until they found the school. So I get like it's a very split. Like right now, I'm trying to think who I have. I think I have like out of the 7, I think like 5 of them are like 20 and younger, and then the other 2 are older. Because it's just how it usually breaks down. But I would rather have someone not knowing anything for sure.
I mean, that makes sense. You can kill bad habits before they start.
Yeah. Or I've had people argue with me, and I'm like, well, why did you come here if you don't want to if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, but I mean,
No, I mean that makes sense. So one thing that I'm curious is like for people out there that want to learn, a lot of these new folks seems like the best are those that haven't started yet. But for those that have started, do you recommend going to school, I guess, to learn more, or is it, I mean, maybe schools like mine are more just for getting the foundation set. I mean,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
I would say to go to school. I would say to, even though, there is in Ohio, there is no licensing, there is no state board. At least this way you'd have a certificate, because eventually it's going to sweep this way. It's going to happen eventually, for licensing. But even if you have experience, it's good to have that backing. It's good to have that solid foundation. And the people that I have had that, did come that they were already grooming, they do learn a lot. They do learn. I'm trying to jam pack 14 years of experience that I know into these new people, so that I can almost guarantee you're going to learn something. And then when they do come, the class includes all of their equipment as well. So, obviously if they already have their equipment, I'm not going to make them buy it twice, or if they
No, that
want new.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of my questions as well. As you're teaching new folks out there, do you have a preferred set of equipment that you recommend? Hey, I know everyone's got ifs, ands, or buts around what they like, but I like to teach people on these four different, four different brands. Do you have that, or is it up to the student?
No, so I put together the kit. So in their kit, they get and it's full CR2. So they do get the cordless clippers, because I'm sick of tripping over clippers, or, the cords, or new groomers. They leave their stuff everywhere. And I cannot tell you how many times like they've flown because someone kicked it and it was sitting on the table. So the cordless ones have been the way to go. I get them the Sensei pup kit. So those scissors, I love them. They're more basic set, but they're sharp. They last a long time. They can take a beating. I mean, I love Sensei. So, but I mean, it's all going to be like my personal preferences on what they're learning, but I've done Guide. I've done some kind of knockoff ones, but Sensei's been the best. I do Artero blades. They seem to be a lot more accessible. Like I'll go to order Andis blades and then they're always out of stock. So, I've been able to get the Artero ones a lot easier. They just get a basic, 3 slicker brushes, and then they get the wall clip combs. I'm trying to think what else. They get a dryer. So I was buying the Schernbau Super Cyclones because I loved them. They have a heat setting, and they have a heat setting and a no heat setting, and they have like a dial adjuster. But I guess they were just bought out by Wags, I believe. So I have to like find out if that's even a thing still. They get 2 books and, a couple different like products. Like they get a couple Artero, like Mad-X and things like that. But everything that they need basically to go and like move into a shop, minus like a table,
Yeah.
they would take with them.
I mean, I love that. I mean, I just love that you broke down that kit for us because, I mean, there's something so, interesting, let's call it, about I'm always wanting to look into others' kits and see what they're using.
Yeah.
Obviously we all think we've used it all, but every so often you might find that, that comb or that whatever it is that you're like, oh, interesting. Wow, well, let me try that guy out, right?
Yeah.
But no, I like that a lot. I mean, is there one tool that you provide that it seems like, obviously you said the cordless clippers is a huge fan, is your favorite and a big fan favorite. Is there another tool that you think that you provide that's like, oh wow, yeah, this is a huge value add for a lot of these people and they see that?
I would say the scissors, honestly, because they get the new kits that they came out. They get a curve, straight, chunker, thinner, and a small straight. So they get everything that they need. We do a lot of chunker work, especially with like outline trims and things like that. So it's a really good kit. For even like I bought myself one just so I could try it out, and I still use it, day to day. That's probably like my favorite thing. I'm always just like I'm very particular. I'm like, you guys put this away. You put it in your case. You do not leave it out. So
we're gonna make these last. You're gonna like it.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So one of my questions is, you have 2 certified master grooming certifications, right? Is that I'm curious your take on this. Is this important? Should every groomer strive to get a certified master groomer certification at some point, or no? I'm curious your take, because you have 2 of them, and so you might have a very interesting viewpoint of this.
That is something I wanted for myself. I wanted it as being a teacher to be able to be like, I have these 2 certifications. I put in the work. I know what I know what I'm talking about for the most part. Most of the time I know what I'm talking about. I feel like a lot of the older school groomers, they don't want to, they have their clientele. If you have that clientele that just wants a 7 shave down and, that's what you're doing and it's your livelihood and you can pay your bills and you're happy with that, then you should do that. Do I think people should always want to learn more? Sure. I do. I think because the industry is always changing. It's growing. Things are becoming way more accessible in terms of like education and, right and wrong ways to do things. You can learn that a lot easier than you could even when I started. When I started, even in 2010, there wasn't online seminars or online courses or, organizations offering classes. It was only Barkley, all the conferences, and that's all you had. So I do think people can always learn, even if it comes to like safety. You can learn, like, you may not know, oh, that product was not good for cats, I shouldn't have been using, it's just something that they can pick up. I think that's always a good thing for people to do.
100%. 100%. I just know, I mean, you nailed it right on the head, where it's like there is a whole class of people in our industry that, refuse to get, or let's call it, to even believe in some of these certifications. And then there's a whole other side of the coin where people think that you're not a good groomer if you don't have them, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I know they're both the complete polar ends of the spectrum there, but it is always interesting to get people's takes on it, because it's a good discussion to have, especially in a space like ours where there's not nationwide certifications or regulations more so
Yeah.
around what we should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
When people leave your school and in your academy here,
Mhm.
what do they typically, what are they prepared to do? Are they prepared to go start their own mobile grooming business? Are they prepared to go be a corporate bather? Are they prepared to go be a head or a head groomer at a boutique salon? Where
Yeah.
do you usually see most of your most of your clients, most of your customers, or most of your customers, most of your students
Going
go?
where they go.
And
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of them go to private salons. So, when they're here, we always focus on like quality. I make sure that they take their time. So, they do a dog at 9, they do 2 dogs per day, 1 at 9, 1 at 12. And so when they're leaving, it all depends on the person too. Some people pick it up real quick and, they can do 3 dogs a day by the time they leave. I tell people, expect to do 2 to 3 dogs for a couple months, and then you can add them in as you get more confident, get your speed up, all that kind of stuff. I have had several people go and start their own, their own salons, especially like mobile. I had the numbers. I think I had, like, out of all the students I've had, I think like 10 of them have gone and opened up their own thing. I do have a 100% placement. So everyone that has graduated the school has a job in grooming. So nobody has like gone and tried to find a job and had not been able to, because I have to keep track of that for the state board. So 100% of people are working with grooming, but I'd say most of them, and I'm very upfront. Like if somebody I feel would do better in like a corporate setting, or, if somebody would do better in a private setting, or if someone needs more hands-on, like, I'm not going to tell somebody, who isn't as confident, go and do mobile. I'll say, I think you should go to a salon for a year or two, get your confidence up. And if that's your dream, then get that backing. So I try to be realistic with them. I don't want them going out and obviously failing or anything like that.
No, absolutely. I think that's your responsibility to do, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you give, I know this school is predominantly, grooming techniques.
Mm-hmm.
For those that go start their own mobiles or start their own salons, is there any sort of extra class or any sort of extra resources that you take them through to make sure that they succeed, or do they go get that elsewhere?
No, so if I have the room, I always tell people, if I have the room, I don't care if people even stay longer, or if there's something that they're not confident with, they can come back for classes and we can do a day or 2 of it. Like, it's open doors. By the time everyone leaves, because the class is so small, everyone's usually friends with everybody. So, and I will, I'll randomly get text messages from people like asking questions. I shoot the answers back and everything's good. So, if I tell them that they should go to, conventions, or that they should take classes. I have a Facebook group for all of my students. So anytime I find, excuse me, any kind of continued education, anything online, I will post it in that Facebook group so that they have access to that, so they can, continue that. Or if there's something where they're really specific and they want to do mobile, or they want to do this, I'll try to find somebody and get them in contact with them so that they can talk about that. So
No, I like that. I mean, I think part of the beauty in our industry is the ability to befriend every single person that you work with. Versus other industries, you might, someone's opening up a salon across the street, you might view them as a competitor. Versus here and now, I do love that everyone is so apt to be able to talk to each other and share tips and tricks and secrets and all that sort of stuff, right? I mean, it's part of the beauty of the Daily Groomer community too, is how willing people are to talk about, what's working and what's not, and share, customer stories or whatever it may be. I want to do with you, Arielle, a fast 5 round where I have 5 questions written down in front of me that are all, quick fire, hot takes. I should be able to get your opinions on them pretty quickly. And I just want to see where you stand.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. So the first question here, I'm a new groomer or I'm a beginner. So I know I've picked up a pair of scissors before.
Okay.
Do I go to that next level through an apprenticeship or through school?
I would do school. Because with the apprenticeship, I've heard more times than not that the groomer who's telling, oh, I'll teach you how to groom, they'll say, oh, in 2 years you'll learn. Or, I've heard more often than not, they kind of get drug along, like, oh, you're going to learn. Oh, I'll teach you next week. Oh, I'll teach you next week. And then they're bathing for 2 years. Obviously, if you can find the right person or you can find the right place that will teach you right away, go for it, because then, you're not necessarily paying for the education. But if you were to pay for a school, my job is to teach you, so you're going to immediately start learning. And when you're doing an apprenticeship, you're kind of on their terms and their time.
Love it. Question 2, when you're teaching your students about customer service and talking to clients, do you teach them to listen to the client about length or educate the client about their suggested length?
I'd say a little bit of both. If it's double coated, obviously I don't have a lot of double coated shave downs. So, and that's because I've kind of educated, and if they didn't like it, they left. But I don't allow the customers to tell the students, I want this much left, because that's subjective of where, they're putting that. So I make sure that when they're talking to the customers, they nail down either it's half off, less than half off, or more than half off, because I don't want to hear what you think a half an inch is to what a half an inch is actually looks like. So I make sure that they have a thorough consultation.
Love it. Love it. Question 3, how to pick a blade over a comb. How do you educate your customers? Or sorry, I keep saying your customers, your students. I told you I don't have a lot of school owners on, so this is new for me. But how do you educate your students about picking a blade over a comb?
It's going to be a lot of what is the coat texture, and a lot of times, I will have them try one way, and I'll say, okay, we'll go ahead and try a 3-blade. And then they'll try it and it doesn't look, necessarily correct. And I'll say, okay, we'll go ahead and put a 1 comb on or put a 2 comb on, and they do it and they're like, oh, that's amazing. So it depends on the coat texture, really. So a lot of the straight coated dogs, we're going to use a little bit more clip combs. Any kind of doodle or curly coated dog, typically that's going to be with a blade.
Love it. Love it. Love how you teach them too. A little hands-on, they can learn how it looks too, so that they're not just taking you at their word, they're taking you as like, oh, okay, no, I saw it. Like, it does not look good with the blade.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 4, in person or online school?
Oh, in person, 100%. If I were to do it all over again, I don't know how I would learn this trade without being hands-on, because reading is one thing, but applying it is completely different. So I would need I would 100% need the hands-on. I wouldn't know, what is the correct pressure for a blade, not too much, but not too little. You would have to be able to actually shave a dog. learning what ways to hold a dog. You can read it in a book, but then applying it, what if you can't reach around? You need that hands-on experience to be able to work in that moment.
Absolutely. No, I've heard that a lot, but obviously with how digitized our world is becoming,
Mhm.
online school has taken off again for better or worse, but there's pros and cons to everything. I think again, it's great to have information at your fingertip, but there is stuff like that where, blade pressure is a perfect example that you just brought up, where it's like, I can't even imagine how to learn that through a
Mhm.
computer screen versus have someone who's an expert right there with me.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
All right, fifth question, and you kind of already alluded to this.
Uh,
Favorite books or books that are for groomers that you recommend are, hey, these are my recommended books for learning.
mhm. So the students, they get Jody Murphy's Dog Grooming Simplified. I like that book because it breaks it down, color coded, what blade or comb to use in each area on the actual dog picture. So it's really easy for them to visualize it. And then they also get Notes from the Grooming Table, the second edition. So they have a lot more written information about the actual specifics of the haircut. So I get the two of them. I used to do Theory of Five, but I feel like the two books combined kind of put it together
Love it.
anyway. Yeah, so those are the two books that they do get.
Love it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I love that you gift all those to people that, I mean, even outside of a school setting, I feel like gifting, your staff or your employee groomers those two books upon,
Mhm.
first day would be well worth it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Those are the best, like in the combination, those are the two best that I've found. And that's where they get homework, so they have
Mhm.
vocabulary tests and the students have to take tests each week. So they get all of their information from those books as well, along with the AKC website.
I love that. I love that. Well, cool. Well, Arielle, I want to give you a chance to shout out Cleveland Grooming School. Tell people how to find you. If we have folks that are in Ohio and maybe near Cleveland, how
Mhm.
to, if they want to go ahead and go to your school, just
Yeah.
I want to give you a chance to plug what you guys got going on.
Yeah. So we have our website. It's just going to be clevelandgroomingacademy.com. Phone number is listed on there. You can contact. I have a office manager. She actually works remotely in Marietta. Her name is Lyric. So she handles all my phone calls for me. She can she'll answer any questions or she'll forward me your information. People, you're more than welcome to stop by for a tour too. I have people that come in and just kind of want to check out the place or do like a shadow day. A lot of people like kind of shadowing for a few hours just to see what it's like and if this is something that they would like. They're more than welcome to do that too.
Awesome. Well, Arielle, we really appreciate you coming on. We'd love for you to share any
Mhm.
knowledge you can with our community. Maybe have you come on again in the future because what you've got going on is amazing. And it's
Yeah.
super inspiring to meet people like you that are taking that step forward for all of us, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
more people we can get into our industry and the more qualified and skilled people we can get into the industry, the better it is for all of us, right? The less
Yeah.
sad things that we have happen, like dogs dying, dogs being mistreated, etc.
Yeah, and I absolutely love talking to new groomers. They're like my favorite little group of people to talk to. Everyone usually is so open and they listen to everything and everyone can share different experiences. And I just love seeing things kind of click. So I would love to be a person that new groomers would feel comfortable coming to, even if you didn't go to school with me. You could shoot me an email if you have a question or any. I'm on Facebook too. So anyone can reach out and ask me a question. Like I would love to have that kind of look, or if people want to talk to or have questions, they can come. I'm totally open. I'm an open book with everything.
For
Yeah.
sure. Well, better be careful how loud you shout that. I'm sure people are going to be taking you up on that.
Yeah.
But Arielle, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you sharing all this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
Awesome. And that's the pod.